Hello and welcome, as it is the completion of the 9th day of August 2018. This is the Money Charts channel. My name is Derek. I'd like to welcome you. And like always, all trades, all bets, and of the like within your own risk, own reward. This morning on the crypto day morning, I was stating this thing is just going to pop like 6-7%. No, I did not state that. I'm not able to see, and this was around when the it was 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe I made it, so even back around here, that this thing is looking more bearish than it is bullish. Some of the things I have been talking about: when you have decent size moves, don't be surprised if you get a little bit of a breakdown beforehand or the opposite move situation. It seems to be COMEX, Forex, stock market-ish related, although I don't look much at stock market intraday charts, although Dow Jones Industrials, yeah, okay. So it got by all of these areas of support, and only for a brief moment, only for a brief amount. But within all the basicness of, oh, markets are going to go up, then they're going to go down, they're going to go sideways after they go up or down, and all that stuff. And if it goes sideways, it's got to either go up or down from there. Yeah, that's basic information. So knowing that the market was going down like this, that the next step was either going to go up or sideways, was guaranteed when it was ready. And knowing that a up move, an up situation that's going to get above the 18 and all that stuff, well, that's guaranteed to happen in time as well. And then you have a rally. So the big part is where these rallies get to, because getting above the 18 as it stood on the 15-minute time frame, well, first you got to start talking about dealing with these highs. So often a lot of these rallies are just going to be that. But then you got to say to yourself, okay, something interesting, a statement made within this move, because within its first 15-minute candle, it got well above that point, had another small leg higher, making it close to the 65.60 handle, and then went sideways for a bit, corrected via time. Because the only price move it had from 65.47 was down to 64.32. So on the short term, it had a price correction. It really didn't correct much of what it had managed to have from 9:30 up until 11 a.m. Eastern time. It wasn't that much, to the point that it never came back to where it came from. And I still would be looking for that as a not as short term, but still very short, a somewhat short term level. We're talking like, we'll go like the 3-hour-ish time frame, 400-minute, all that stuff. Yeah, it's going to be a must hold situation. And within the short term, it digested the gain, went sideways, stayed within the 18. So as you're seeing, just little patterns to look out for within the market. Like after the 16-hour time frame, price action gets up to the sideways 18 average. It had already established major support at 64.38. It had established the resistance top at 65.46, and there really was no other area. But you know that there's a little bit of resistance from that high I mentioned, and I guess to that point you were talking about 64.86. One could state that as the market was moving among the 1300 hour and the 1400 hour, that although not needed, there could very easily be a resistance established in between that number to the high, and that was the case within the move at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So it got out of it at 4 p.m., spent 3 periods, very low green size moves, but solid green size moves. It managed to get up to that level of resistance that it recently established about 6 or so periods ago, but the whole thing is after the green move, 3 periods of grinding its way higher, thus within the time frame 18 starting to rise and then you have the green candle up, making it not much of a surprise compared to any random opening of any 15-minute period to have a sizable move of this nature. Now it's got to digest this gain. So what it did, it went sideways for a little bit, small price correction, coming back to that little key area. I don't know, my horizontal ray can't come in, but the general beefy area was 64.93-ish, so a little under 65. It established 65.16. The most recent candle pretty much lowered that point with 65.10 hit, and overall still digesting the gains. And I'm not going to come out here and say, oh, a big up move or down move like this is going to happen, because it's like impossible for me to do. There's going to be situations where setups are going to look good and bad, but every time a bad setup in the low 6,000s for Bitcoin going to 3,000 have appeared, they have yet to come into play. And I'm going to still say that word yet, because overall within the more longer term time frame, it's still got to do something about the lower highs. This is an issue that really, even on the short term, started to appear in the middle of January, because you were just in an ultimate up move into December, and your correctionary phase, oh, okay, there's the lower high. Now at the time, you see it breaking above the 18 back in this situation here. When you're looking at the market from this point of view, there is nothing on a technical analysis statement to state that this was the top, and that the probability odds then, by looking at such a case, for you to have a decent leg higher, pick your number, 23,000 then, okay, so the difference from 17 to 23, and we'll just use percentage numbers for whatever it would happen to be, but 6,000 would work out to a little under 33, so a 30% move. So to me, it was more likely that you would have, at that time, a 30% up move that would have made a new high, in comparison to that of losing 3 over 13, or just the equivalency loss. But obviously the down move ended up being the result. It got above the 18, it failed. There was the weakness, of course, when you went into January 16th, 20th, resisting where it came from, staying below the 18, which then was newly declining. And then when you talk about tops and bottoms after the fact, well, there was an after the fact as it was dropping at the end of January, breaking down below the 10,000 handle, that this was going to be somewhat of a top. And this could have been a bottom, for when you look at even the market at this point of view, you're just going on a technical analysis level. You were at the newly declining, but if you could survive within this, find a method in holding, then you could talk about this congestion area and having that retest of it. And as it was going on in here into the months of March, it was showing some nice productivity. Now, not shown too well amongst this chart was a double top formation. And when it was showing weakness, like we can start to see in here, well, then that was telling you that on a more longer term level, this thing could be ready for a decent downtrend, or at least the uptrend to be definitely over, and thus it hasn't been attributed or back in play, that bull market. But as we can see, this low, of course, has not been taken out. So now the fear signs at this stage going back into March showed reasonable cause that this was able to break support and go to 3. I hate these situations on a technical analysis level when I see a pattern like this, because I realize it's a spot where you were at a place before, so buying opportunities are there. But when you talk about buying both bullishly and bearishly at a specific level, which is what this was, and it wasn't even a guarantee that it was a good buy or going to be a successful buy. But on a bearish level, you're talking about not doing good with this high, thus making a lower high, exactly what it did do, because there was where it got above the 18. and unable to go through. So that was the bearish situation of where it was good to go long. When I talk about different things where something is both bullish and bearish to happen. And then each time the situation comes into play where you get a bearish buy, then it really doesn't become as strong. So now you talk about buying here again. Oh, this is a 3x move. Not as much as I liked it back here. And when you're making new legs you haven't seen in quite some time lower, that's to me, there's nothing wrong with, for my strategy anyway, just putting in buys. And of course, there was only, whenever you buy on a move that's deep below the 18 like this, and what you're going to get is a move that has plays amongst the 18 highs, definitely okay sell amounts or sell signals that would be available from such. But the key word was okay sell signals, because there's a good chance you could buy some and obviously you're unable to unload everything that you bought, which is part of the game. So yeah, now we're having that. We had that third test. So another attempt in reverting this trend back to where it needs to. And here we stand looking as if it wants to have this next test. It's been unable, of course, to do anything to resume the bull trend. And what I've been talking about here is it had yet another lower high resistance area move. It's back to the 18. Currently, it's struggling amongst the stage in correcting where it needs to. It's already below where I would like to do, but the key part of the word is struggling. A verb, an action word, current tense, not past tense, not future tense, in play for such. So if you're playing a sporting event and you're struggling within the situation in the 6th inning, you're probably behind in the game. But that doesn't mean you're going to lose the game. It only means you probably may. And depending on how good you are and how much you're struggling, maybe it's not the worst of situations. And with all of this that I'm talking about, I'm ignoring fundamental news throughout. And one of the reasons I like to say that, especially within the strategy, playing any of these altcoins and such, is they're going to have fundamental news that's going to occur, and it's going to be good and it's going to be bad. The key word there is and. It's going to occur on both directions, good and bad. So therefore, when good situations occur, markets are going to go up and it's going to be sell order, sell order, sell order. You may not understand why. You don't need to understand why. You need to understand the numbers for your trades, your financial situation and stuff like that. But really, to me, that's what it all comes down to anyway. And then there's going to be fundamental news that'll bring it back down. So you don't need to know that the ETF news is coming into play. That's, to me, that can be all hogwash. Although, when you add more information to your game, your arsenal, the better you're going to be. So I'm not saying to rule out that information. Just that if you're not good at finding it out or you can't find it out in time, then that doesn't mean you can't participate in the game and be a very solid player as far as that within the trading is concerned. On the daily chart, all of these red candle down moves that have occurred. So you've been well below the 18, well due for a bounce. You're still well below where this 18 average happens to be. Again, I expected this. I'm not going to say expected it, because when I should be using the word hope. Hope is in what I would like to occur, that I have no idea on one side or another, or I realize it's an underdog that could still come through, but it's what I would prefer to happen. So for me, that's the best word on that, of hope. For betting on hope is a losing strategy. Yet I've done the best I can within mine to not play on the mechanisms of the very short-term movements, especially when you hear analysts talking about all this short-term mumbo-jumbo crap and all that stuff. And a lot of it is just that. But on the long term, it's going to be fine. So in a situation, and speaking it in terms here, yeah, 3,000 might be part of the game, but for me, the break of 20,000 in the future and good gains well thereafter that is in play regardless of where, if we go there or not. It just may take a little bit of extra time to get there if there happens to be a more long-standing bear market. So for me, I am making the long-term bet that this market is not going to oblivion to the downside, and it's just how it's going to be. Because if I was very, very confident that this thing was long-term bubble, noteworthy, ready, I would say such. And I would probably be talking about liquidating close to 70, 80, 90% of my crypto funds and playing the most minimum that I could use as part of small diversification. The fact that I'm good at bringing low amounts into big amounts if it happens to work out. But no, that's why I'm taking small but noticeable amount of profit taking along the way, realizing that just in case I'm wrong, I'm doing the best I can within a risk-reward portfolio level. But more importantly, realizing that if I'm right, I'm losing on the situation because I bought all the silver back in here and even up in this point here. I mean, how much more silver could I get at Bitcoin 60,000 compared to 20? And I'd have a lot more Bitcoin if I didn't spend the Bitcoin on such. But the way I look at it is, how's my overall net portfolio going to be? Am I going to be very happy with my balance? For if I can turn back in, well, we'll start with late February 20, right in here. If I could turn X amount into whatever, a decent amount from here, knowing that I started at a very good time because the market just had very little retracement to start, where I actually kept buying more Bitcoin. So that kind of was a decent thing for that matter. But it worked out that I had superior gains because I had a small buy section here amongst this retracement. And that was beautiful. And the profits from trading, having more Bitcoins than I had before, and the value of the Bitcoins for me was nothing more than phenomenal. And within those phenomenal gains, that was the first mechanism to make it easier to have a nice Christmas, given that the rally happened in December. So Christmas gifts that year were pretty cheap for me. And I bought some nice ones for people. And also, I was able to get all that physical silver and such. I could have got more, but I realized, hey, wait a second, this could be very good on the very, very long-term time frame as I'm talking about myself in the trading mechanism. So if I can turn X amount into the lifestyle of portfolio that I had in here, then how am I going to do if I start with XY amount? And Y is greater than X, which means I have a much greater size portfolio sitting here than I did sitting here. And in the situation, if it goes down here, I have, well, Y would be a smaller number. We'll call that XZ. Z is greater than Y, and Z is greater, Y is greater than Z, and Z is greater than X. If you can understand that. I'm sure some of the math people know exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, what I'm saying is my bankroll is a lot better if the price action were to do something like that, go to 3,000, at that point, knowing I know it's going to be worth less, even especially if altcoins go down a bit, I'll even have less Bitcoin, so be it. Then it would be when it was here. And if I can turn X into that, then a number that's greater than that for any type of equal opportunity, and maybe even better with better situations, and more importantly, better trade decisions than I did before. A lot of that comes through experience, understanding your mistakes, understanding your lost opportunities, and then trying to ensure that you can remove those aspects from occurring as you gain what experience is important in competition. Thus, you remember it. Oh yeah, I remember this situation before. I didn't do that, and oh man, that really was. I could have made some good funds. Okay, well I'm going to do that now, and oftentimes that's just going to end up working out for you amongst the trading sphere. Okay, so I think this was a very, very good video. I didn't think I was going to go deep into the whole portfolio management like that, because really the whole thing that I wanted to go over was what I started it all on, is that one of the statement moves, you have a break of that certain level, again on the 15-minute time frame, when it had a move that got by a level of resistance that it incurred from this leg lower, but was able to get past this level of resistance that we were talking about. Then it was able to basically get into this nut and previous congestion area, which I'm going to state is from this move in here and even this. I mean, there was two small floors amongst it. So the first one between 64.32, that's where it first supported, then resisting it around 65.48, and this upper end not too much higher. This high matches up with this one, but again, as shown on the daily term time frame, it's got a long ways to go just to get to the 18. Thus, with that range currently in a declining mode, although this is the new day now, so these are the levels for several hours, about 20, 19 or 20, whatever, just most of the day still remains. The 18 average of highs, 71.45, 18 average of lows, 69.82. These numbers in future days are only going to reduce, but it means you can have a very good rally and you're still going to be in question on whether that rally is going to be for real, because any type of move that happens to make it in towards this band is going to be bringing a now what question mark situation, because now you're in a big test. You're in a test of trying to get back into some sort of bullish standpoint. The test right now is just to end an amazing turn by the bears, because the bears left this 18 after breaking this and they just washed this baby down very nice, and that on their front, what they're trying to look to do. So now it's all about stopping that, and when they have a damn good turn, you're going to need a damn good turn just to destroy that turn. That's why I like to use the combination of a game like Risk or Magic the Gathering is my most favorite. The only thing is I'm not that good at that game, and I've only played about 2 or 3 different days, maybe 9 or 12 different times. But it was a fun game, and I really was interested in how like you could have some turns that were just so dynamic over others. And one of it would be chess. Now, surprisingly, I don't know how this has ever worked out. I don't know how to play chess. I'm shocked at it as probably more than you are. I haven't tried too much in the last couple decades, and maybe I should be using the internet to try to figure out. But I'm good at a lot of different games, and I never really was that great at checkers, but I knew its rules. So that was maybe one reason why it was just not a game I was as interested in, even though there was a tremendous amount of skill. Maybe I like games that have a lot of uncertainty, a little bit of uncertainty to it too. Games like backgammon, which I am very, very proficient and good at. Well, the dice can sometimes get very favorable or against you as well, but it's a good opponent reading, understanding their situations, understanding different extra variables where you have moves that can just be proficient on such a high level, and or ways of trying to enact a particular strategy of a certain trap. And by the way, if I talk backgammon with people, because I learned that game all on my own and I've barely ever played live opponents, and this is why I know this so well, when I do play live opponents, they got a lingo of terms that I don't understand, and I got a lingo of terms they don't understand, and oftentimes they can mean similar things, but it's a pretty cool thing, actually. I kind of like that aspect of it. And yeah, so anyway, thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.